Hey guys, it's Tim Miller with the Bulwark. Kamala Harris's campaign is out with their first ad that's actually going to show up on TVs across the swing states. So we've been talking about a couple of the other videos that she's put out to frame up this race, but this ad is going to be the one that people are going to see in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia during commercial break for the Olympics. All right, this is how you reach people that are not political obsessives, right? That aren't watching YouTube videos about politics, but that are going to vote, right? That's how you get to them, through these paid television ads. So it's interesting to see what she is trying to do with this ad. What's the message that she's trying to send them, and analyze whether I think that's going to be an effective one or not. So let's watch this ad together, and then we'll come back on the back end to talk about what she's trying to do with it.
The one thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks and won $20 billion for homeowners. And as Vice President, she took on the big drug companies to cap the cost of insulin for seniors. Because Kamala Harris has always known who she represents.
This campaign is about who we fight for. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Where every senior can retire with dignity. But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward, to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and end the Affordable Care Act. But we are not going back. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Let's talk about the first part of the ad first. She starts out talking about how she's fearless, how she put murderers and abusers behind bars, how she took on the big banks, she took on the pharma companies. What's the point of this? One, I think that there's a subliminal element to this, which is pushing back on subconscious misogyny, right? There are some people with a woman candidate that are always going to be like, is a woman strong? Is a woman man enough for this? All that nonsense, right?
Just man up.
She's not talking about being a woman candidate, but she's addressing that perceived vulnerability by saying, oh yeah, this woman is up for this. She stood up to bullies. She stood up to the worst motherfuckers that are out there. She stood up to murderers and abusers, the plutocrats. She has the backbone. She's taken them on. You don't have to worry about her, having the strength to be the president. She's fearless. Right, so that is what she's trying to accomplish in the first part of this ad. The other thing is she does a more direct policy contrast with Trump later in the ad. But right here, the Trump contrast is subliminal. We talked in another video about her 2019 ad that was a direct contrast about how she took on abusers and frauds like Trump. So, she knows his type. Right? She's included that line in her stump speech. She knows his type. That's not in here. This is more about her bio, about defining who she is. It's an introduction to the types of voters out there that really don't know a lot about her. Know she was vice president. There are going to be tons of voters out there that have no idea that she was a prosecutor. So in this ad, she's introducing herself, introducing her bio, demonstrating that she's taken on the tough fights, demonstrating the character traits that people want in a president. And also the other subliminal thing is demonstrating to the Democratic base voters out there that she's got the fight in her. She's got that dog in her, and she's going to take on Donald Trump. You don't have to worry about her. She's fearless. She's dealt with murderers. She can deal with that fat, soft-handed you-know-what. All right? So that is what's happening in the first half of this ad. The second half, I think, is interesting because it pivots to policy. You could go a lot of ways with this. But she's focusing on a very economic populist type message. She talks about how people need to be able to not just get by, but get ahead. How seniors should be able to retire with dignity. And here's the first explicit contrast with Trump. The fact that Trump wants tax cuts for billionaires, right? And that who she cares about is working class people who are struggling. Now, this is basically a traditional, Democratic message, right? Like you have this very unusual, it's the nicest thing you can say about him, candidate in Trump. You could go a lot of ways. You could talk about the threat to democracy or autocracy, or the fact that he, has been adjudicated as somebody that has done sexual assault, a fraudster. Like there are a lot of ways you could go, but she gives really more a traditional message that Democrats often use with effect on Republicans that want tax breaks for the rich. And Trump said that he wants to extend the tax breaks. And there's video of him on multiple occasions talking about how he's going to do tax breaks for rich people. So, and there's a secret a caught on camera tape of him at Mar-a-Lago talking about how much better he's going to make life for the rich people in the room, right? So I think he's vulnerable to this attack. And I think it's interesting. When I interviewed James Carville right after Kamala became essentially the presumptive Democratic nominee, his advice to her was to talk about how she took on these big companies to help regular folks, to help with prices, to help keep prices down. He's concerned about inflation. Carville was famous for the "it's the economy, stupid" message in 1992. He's still thinking through that frame, right? Like, it's the economy. People are still worried about inflation. You need to speak to them about that issue, about the thing that is on the top of their mind, the concern on the top of their mind. She does that here. Some of the policy elements to that are maybe not exactly my cup of tea as a former Republican, but as a question of efficacy, you can see what she's trying to do. She's trying to say, I care about working people. We are going to advance policies that help working people. Donald Trump is going to act like his policies are better for you, but they're not. He only cares about rich people like him. And so, I think all in all, what you have here in that introductory message is some people have learned something about Kamala, maybe they didn't know about her background as a prosecutor. You've demonstrated that she has the strength to take on these big fights. She's gone after people like Trump, and she'll go after the pharma companies or whoever is hurting regular Americans if she gets in the White House, and offering an economically populist contrast message to Trump, to reach out to the working class voters who were a little softer in their support for Biden than they'd traditionally been. Working class, lower income voters tend to vote for Democrats, but Biden's numbers in those demos were not as good as they'd been in 2020. He was actually losing a lot more ground with non-college working class voters than with kind of the white, college-educated, more high-income former Republican types, and so this is a way to get at them. She does not want to be defined as the candidate of the big banks and the rich liberals, right? She wants to be defined as a candidate that cares about working people, that cares about you, and that is that message. It ties throughout the entire ad, with what did she take on the pharma companies for? Lowering the price of insulin, lowering prices for you. What does Donald Trump wants to do? Lower tax rates for the rich. So that's the initial contrast message. I think that it's a little softer than what we're going to see in future ads because of the job that they need to do introducing her. I'd like to see a little bit more in future introduction bio ads, telling people something that they wouldn't expect about Kamala, something that plays against type a little bit, something in her track record or experience that codes a little more conservative. I like the top cop side of things. We do have Kamala putting murderers and abusers behind bars. I'd like to lean into that a little bit more. Let's hear more about her law and order record, more about her record as being tough on crime. I think that might be something that a lot of voters don't know, particularly the swing voters, that's something that will appeal to them. So there it is, the first ad from Kamala Harris on TV. We're going to be monitoring all the ads that are coming out from both sides, telling you what we think, what's working, what's not working. And so come on back to this page, subscribe. We'll see you again soon.